Hi friends, my name is Sarah, and I'm currently the Intentional Interim Minister with St. Andrew's United Church in Lacombe, Alberta. If you're watching this video, it means that you received the link via the email letter that I sent out to the St. Andrew's Community of Faith. Or you might have found it via our website, or our Facebook page, or even this channel itself. No matter what brought you here, welcome. My husband John has graciously shared his YouTube channel, The Accessible Faith Project, with us during this time of pandemic as a place to share my weekly reflections. There are other videos on this channel which are an opportunity to learn more about the Bible, faith questions, and the like. If you'd like to receive notifications of when new videos are posted, you can do so by clicking on the little bell icon that says subscribe and signing up. It's completely free. Most of us, I think, have heard the phrase, "What goes around comes around." We use it to denote our belief in karma, our view that we get back what we give out, of people being the victim of the same negative circumstances that they have inflicted on others. It's an idiom that could easily apply to Jacob's story. So far in following Jacob's tale, we have heard how he tricked his older brother Esau out of his birthright for a bowl of lentil stew. He then goes on to fool his blind father Isaac into giving him the blessing that should have been Esau's. And because of his deceptive, heel-like ways, Jacob flees his brother's wrath. Along the way, he has his fantastic dream, reminding him of God's presence in his life. And from there, Jacob finds refuge in the land of his uncle Laban, where his mother sends him to find a wife from amongst his own people. As this morning's story from Genesis chapter 29 begins, Jacob has been in Haran, the land of his uncle Laban, for about a month. He has fallen in love with the younger of Laban's daughters, Rachel, and he asks his uncle permission to marry her, agreeing to work for him for 7 years as the bride price. To our modern Western ears, the notion of paying to marry somebody, whether through labor or actual cash, is rather far-fetched and outside of the majority of our experiences. And yet, as hard as it is for us to comprehend, in the time when this passage was first told and written, marriage was very much a business deal between the father of the bride and the groom. Women were not considered people with any sort of say in the matter. They were property to be exchanged for a monetary price. And so Laban makes a deal with Jacob, and the wedding festivities take place. The bride is veiled, and the marriage is consummated. But our trickster gets deceived by his uncle. For on awakening the day after the wedding, Jacob discovers that he has married the elder sister, Leah, instead. When Jacob confronts Laban about his deception, Laban explains that it was common practice for the eldest daughter to be married first. Now, according to some interpretations of the story, Laban's actually the good guy for taking care of his daughters, and for ensuring through his own trickery that Leah would also be taken care of. The two men make another deal that Jacob will continue the wedding week with Leah and then work an additional 7 years for Laban in order to marry Rachel as well. What goes around comes around. Or does it? In the end, Jacob got what he wanted. After 14 years of labor, he married Rachel and he married Leah. Though Jacob is a liar and a trickster, God graciously gives him the blessing that God gave to Abraham and to Isaac. And in addition, God promises to be with him and to bring him back to his homeland. The scene at Bethel from last week is a profound illustration of God's grace, and it starts to be fulfilled in our text for today. Specifically, the long-standing promise that God made to Abraham, that Abraham would be the father of a great nation. And this starts to be fulfilled even through Laban's trickery and through the rivalry that develops between Rachel and Leah. If we follow Jacob's story a bit further into chapter 30, we hear the tale of children being born, of struggles with fertility, and of Jacob being given Rachel's and Leah's maids Bilhah and Zilpah in order to provide heirs. Eventually, Jacob outfoxes Laban through Jacob's talent with sheep breeding, and leaves Haran the father of 11 sons and 1 daughter. God is faithful, and God fulfills God's promises even through very flawed human beings. Personally, I find echoes of Jacob's story of the trickster being outfoxed by another in the Disney movie Toy Story 4. In this latest installment, Woody, Buzz Lightyear, and the rest of the gang embark on a road trip with Bonnie, their kid, and a new toy named Forky. The adventurous journey turns into an unexpected reunion as Woody's slight detour leads him to his long-lost love, Bo Peep, in an antique shop. While the gang were searching for Bo, they encounter Gabby Gabby, a seemingly helpful doll who in truth sets out to deceive them. She tricks and she schemes in order to get what she wants from Woody. And Toy Story 4 reminds me that life doesn't always work out the way we want or expect, and yet love and redemption are still possible. Jacob's story does as well. And though our reading for this morning does not say this explicitly, it seems that God is working with this flawed man to remake him. Jacob, after stealing Esau's birthright, is caught in a net of his own making. The deceiver is deceived, and the one who broke the law of the firstborn is caught by another version of it. He lives in exile from his homeland and has to work for 14 years without wages for the love of Rachel. And all of these experiences will help to remake the shallow young man we first met in Genesis chapter 25 into the father of the nation known as Israel. Jacob's story is also our own story. For while we may lie, cheat, trick, and scheme in order to try and to get the things that we want and think we deserve, God's love for us isn't conditional on us being perfect. Rather, God's faithfulness, God's consistency, and God's unconditional love and presence continue, whether or not we have done anything to deserve them. Thanks be to God. Amen.